Hi, I'm Rosco and welcome to EV Marketplace. We're coming to you from the workshops of City Prestige in Mascot in Sydney Town. Thanks for joining us. Take 3 and thanks for bearing with us. I've got Ed with me. We're laughing and we've lost it completely. He's a local mechanic here and he's a specialist now in EV mechanical repairs. And I think as most of you are getting on and maybe in some of your ownership experience with Teslas or other EVs, perhaps it's time to take a look under the hood, under the bonnet, underneath, under the tyres, some of the things that you should start to look for even as an owner. Certainly the maintenance program on a Tesla hasn't been that obvious, filters, but the rest of it, hard to say. But certainly if you're looking to sell at our AmazingEV Marketplace, which of course tonight's brought to you by AmazingEV, certainly if you're looking to sell, it's a great idea to check it out, have a look and get maybe a inspection report done, and certainly if you're looking to buy, get it checked out. There's a few things that we're going to check out later on with Ed, and before we get there, I'm just going to introduce Ed, and he's been here probably 6 months now.
Yeah, close to 6 months.
6 months, and he made the jump. And tell us why did you end up working on EVs, Ed?
I just something different. You know, it's a little bit different than a normal petrol diesel car. Wanted to take the jump. This is where the technology is going. So obviously, I think it was time to make the leap and haven't looked back.
You've had a lot of experience in petrol cars, yeah?
Correct, yeah.
We'll chat about some of the big differences later on. Certainly the simplicity, yeah?
Yeah, for sure, yeah. Simplicity is, yeah.
But some, like any machine, there's been wear and tear on some of the basic components of the car.
Correct.
You've seen, and that's what you're experiencing now. I think you were telling me before, you've never even opened a motor up on an EV yet.
No, never opened one up, no. Honestly, never opened one up, so.
That'd be the first thing you'd be starting on some of these cars, some of these petrol cars, right?
Yep.
So a few other things we're going to cover later on in our top tips for maybe preparing your car for sale, looking after it. I was going to say, what do you drive at the moment?
I've got a Model Y Performance.
That's insane. That's which one was that? The new one?
The new one, yeah. 2025, Now it's classified as a 2025, so.
And how do you compare that for previous Model Ys? Yeah?
Mate, night and day difference, honestly. Everything about them, it's just a night and day difference in terms of handling, acceleration, braking, steering feel, I guess agility and control. Mate, it's chalk and cheese. Yeah.
It's a nice looking car, right? It's nice inside. That's They've really upped their game.
100%. Yeah.
It's a lot different. It's amazing how much they've upped their game.
Yeah, massive.
I love it. Yeah, I had to drive it before. It's absolutely insane. But for this, I've got the Model Y. I haven't got any plans to upgrade yet, but maybe perhaps a few of you are. So after the break, we're going to come back to Ed. We're going to have a closer look. We are in front of my Tesla Model Y 2022 model. We've got the front wheel off. We're going to run through a few things with Ed, and some of the more simple things that many of you have probably covered before, and some of the more complicated things that perhaps start to get into the nitty-gritty and probably rule out the DIY factor. So we're starting off, we've got the front wheel off here, and, if you dig deep into some of the suspension components, maybe somewhere that you might want to touch yourself, there are some things that start to wear out. And we've got a couple of bits and pieces here. What is that, Ed?
So this is what they call a front lateral lower control arm. Now what this is responsible for is holding the shock to the subframe and also to the front of the hub. And basically this moves and articulates with suspension as you go up and over bumps. This is always moving, and this is a piece that commonly wears out, especially.
What wears out on that one? Yeah.
So what actually wears out on these is this inner bush here, which actually sits up in the subframe. It's kind of a little bit hard to see.
That's right.
But what basically happens is over time you get a creaking noise and some slight knocking under braking, and really, really common for you to hear these noises as the Ks get up there, and it's definitely something to check out, especially on a new.
That's off a Model 3.
This is off a Model 3, yes.
And there's a couple of similar components on a Model Y, but it comes down to some rubber bushes that deep in there that start to wear out that can't be replaced. You've got to get the whole arm. When do you start sort of seeing those signs of wear and tear?
Look, honestly, it depends how the car's driven. If it's driven like a race car, mate, they wear out a lot quicker. But look, if you're driving the car like a normal person, day-to-day commute, roughly about the 80 to 100,000 Ks is when you can start to commonly see these start to fail.
What else should we be looking for on the suspension side of things?
On the suspension side, these upper control arms, so this sits at the top of the suspension, on top of the hub, on top of the knuckle. These are starting to show some signs of wearing out. This also articulates with the suspension as well, and especially these bushes in the back that you can see that
one's off. That's off a Model Y. Yeah,
that's off a Model Y. Yes,
and that is.
That's plastic.
That is plastic.
Yeah, that is plastic.
That's plastic. That is plastic. Here's the replacement of the Model 3, similar component, slightly different design, but similar component on the more recent Model 3.
Yep.
Back to alloy again. This is like a nylon plastic with some reinforcing. So on the major suspension arm of the Model Y, a plastic component. So worth checking. And what sort of sounds are you going to hear? If you got that,
you start to hear like a ticking or a knocking sound as you're going over bumps and sort of at low speeds.
Yeah.
You can't hear it at all at high speeds, but because these cars are so quiet, mate, any low speed maneuverability with, the suspension, with turning around corners, coming out of driveways, you will start to hear some slight creaking, and just something to be helpful.
And on the rear, similar
sort of thing. The rear it's a multi-link rear. You've got 5 different arms. What we're commonly seeing is the lower control arm that actually mounts the spring to it. The bushes in there, they commonly they are starting to show signs of wearing out, especially a lot more of the weight is plastered over the back wheels.
We won't, and so it's not so much the structure of the arm, unless it's in an accident. It's more the bushes.
It's more the bushes
that are holding the bolt into the So there's a bit of flex designed in there, but it starts to wear out. So.
Correct. Yeah.
And then while we're here, what are you seeing with brakes? Yeah.
Well, look at your brakes. Like pretty much.
This is a normal test I used to do.
Yeah. No lip there at all.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. So if this was a normal car, your day-to-day car, say like a Mazda or a Hyundai, maybe 60,000 Ks if you're lucky, the front brakes are pretty much worn out. So you just don't see brakes commonly wear out. Look, if the car's, a performance or something, it's definitely something to look out for. But a standard Model Y, I've seen personally 250,000 Ks on these cars. The brakes are a little bit more worn, but nothing like, completely worn out. So something to definitely look at. 40,000
typically. I used to have a Volkswagen Caddy and the TIG one as well. Yeah. 40,000 Ks, the disc was severely rutted in there, and you could feel a bit of strong lip on there, which was a sign of disc wear. And the pads, they'd be changed as well. But what do those pads look like?
Mate, there's 80% there, 85 to 90% there.
That's good. So brakes normally worth checking, but normally seem to be okay. Certainly Regen. I drive a lot with Regen. I don't know who's a Regen fan. Other EVs, Teslas in particular, I think it's just fantastic. I love it, and try not to use the brake at all if I can, unless it's an emergency.
You don't really see much brake wear. Look, you might see the rears actually wear out quicker than the fronts due to the handbrake being in the rear. So the handbrakes, when you put the handbrake on and you take it off, you will sort of wear out the pads a little bit quicker in the rear.
So that's an electronic handbrake, right? So every time you stop, you hear that little click.
Correct.
And it's an electronic.
Yep.
And that's activating the rear brakes.
Yep.
They're discs as well.
Yep.
And it's every time you stop.
Yep.
So they're getting a hell of a lot more
Correct.
actual physical use.
Yep.
But wear and tear, it's static. The disc is not moving when it's when it's being activated, right?
Yep, exactly. Yep.
So it's just the pads.
Just the pads are coming into contact with the discs.
Okay.
Yep.
And look, while we're at it, brake fluid, are you seeing any problems with brake fluids even around 100 Ks, or is that worth checking?
Look, it's definitely worth checking. Maintenance schedule for brake fluid on any car is 2 years, regardless of your schedule. It's usually 2 years or 3 years max.
Yeah.
The fluid is hydroscopic, so it does absorb moisture and it does need to be replaced.
Yeah.
And it's quite a standard thing on all cars.
Where is that? Can you access?
So it's underneath.
Is it under that plastic?
It's underneath the plastic frunk.
Yeah.
You can access it and check it.
Yeah.
You will get a warning if it's low.
Yeah.
And if it's low, then you've got a serious problem. So but it's definitely something to keep your eye on.
Actually, that's another. Have you ever seen a warning light on the dashboard for brake discs?
No,
we don't know
no.
if that's, we don't
no,
we don't know if that exists.
They don't have any sensors. So like
Yeah, okay.
some
All right,
like
so-
Volkswagens and stuff have sensors to say when the pads are getting low.
Okay.
But Teslas don't. So
That's
look,
about the only thing that's...
yeah, once you start hearing a grinding noise in a Tesla, if you're braking, it might be a bit of a concern.
And again, so the fluids under there, and you can see with the similar reservoir under there, if you wanted to check, you could see whether it was slightly under the guide.
Correct. Yeah. Nothing. Yeah, it's not. You know, it's not the hardest thing to check in the world, but it is tucked away under a cover, and it involves removing one cover. And that's
I know. I thought the only fluid I had to worry about was the windscreen.
Not always the case.
Which is easy and obvious. In case anyone needs any guidance on changing windscreen washer fluid, please please don't come here. That's something you can handle definitely by yourself at home. But are there any other fluids to concern
you've got
yourself?
the high voltage cooling system and also your air conditioning system, which is all run off what they call it's got a radiator in the front, which is a condenser.
The octavalve, is that the octavalve or not?
So it's called the super manifold.
Okay.
And that and the octavalve, so they all tie into one, and that has about 22 to 26 litres of coolant running through the system.
Okay.
So that system is definitely worth a check, and does have to be changed at 200,000 k interval or 10 years.
And we were talking about that earlier, and it's pretty well common knowledge that the battery management systems are so good these days.
Yeah.
They're helping the battery do its job better without any degradation. And we'll come to batteries in a second, but I think you hear those fans going off when you're either on your way to charging, preparing to go charging in a Tesla, and then you hear them going off
when you're charging.
When you're charging, and there's even a sign that comes up, I think, that don't worry too much about this.
Yeah.
It's perfectly normal.
Yep, exactly.
But that's cooling down the fluid that's going around the batteries as it obviously warms up.
Correct, yeah. So,
while it's charging.
Yeah, exactly. And if it's really cold outside, it'll actually heat the battery cells up to make them take a fast charge.
Yeah, okay.
So, if you're not using supercharging a lot, and you go to use a supercharger and you just plug it in without telling the car that you're going to supercharge it, you usually take about 10 to 15 minutes longer to charge.
Yeah.
So, it's definitely something to
So
do.
the preconditioning is also warming, doing the opposite. It's warming the battery up, not cooling it down. And then when it's charging, it's cooling the battery down.
Correct.
So either way, the fans are going ballistic, either doing one way or the other.
Yep, exactly, yeah.
So anything else in terms of fluids?
That's really it. We've touched on washer fluid, brake fluid, coolant, antifreeze. That's pretty much it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the air con's all integrated into that same system as well.
Yeah.
The same system that cools the battery.
Correct.
Is the same system that the air con.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So it's part of the super mold and the octavalve. Yeah, it's all in one. So
that's a hell of a lot simpler than multiple systems in a petrol car.
Exactly.
That's for sure.
That's for sure. Yes.
Looking at batteries, and one of the things, we certainly subscribe to battery testing, and there's a few ways to do it. Many of you have had involvement with that. Tesla's still got a system where you can tap the screen, I think, and it was more comprehensive, and I think it's a bit more binary, good, bad test in terms of the Tesla system. Certainly there's other testing facilities out there, and you can go to Tesla as well. Why would you do that? Well, perhaps now on the secondary market, a lot of companies like Pickles and ourselves, indeed, a lot of sellers are promoting the fact that if you have a battery test, you can present that to a buyer. It's certainly going to make a big difference. It's certainly going to give the buyer a lot more confidence. As an owner, perhaps it might too, if you feel that your range is not quite right, because those more comprehensive battery tests go right down to the cell level, and they can see exactly what whether there is a fault with a particular cell, remembering that this is made up of 3,000 or something equivalent A size or triple A size, double A size batteries basically packed in there. So there are and can be issues, and even a place like this workshop, we've managed to secure one of the Avalou battery testing systems, and that'll be in place for anyone who wants to come and get a battery test. Once again, just reiterating, I don't have any financial arrangements. There's no commission involved, nothing in terms of affiliation. These guys have just helped me out, and I'm helping them out. And by doing this, hopefully we'll bring some bit more knowledge to Teslas and some of the things that I hadn't looked at because I just hadn't worried about a lot of things. But battery testing is one of those things, and I'm probably going to do one myself on this car just to see what's going on. And you could drive in, you can get one done yourself, or there's perhaps there's a service that might come out and do that in your own driveway. It's only 5 or 10 minutes to get that done immediately. Again, if you're selling, to give the buyer some more confidence about the battery, that could be the only thing that they're really worried about buying a used EV. And perhaps if you're a buyer, commissioning $175, $200 on one of those might be the best investment you've ever made. If you're looking to spend $25,000, $30,000 on a used Tesla, it might be the best thing you've ever done. Those battery tests are available on just about every EV that's available out there, and we're just focusing on Tesla tonight, but they're out there for everything. But of course, there's another battery in the car as well.
There is, yes, there sure is.
And what happens with the 12-volt battery? They're just a standard lead-acid battery in most cases, or they've changed to lithium?
They have changed to lithium, so they've gone from 12.2 to 12.4 volts up to 13.6, and that's a lithium-ion battery, and it comes in effect after 2023. So anything 2023 and newer has the lithium-ion battery pack, but it's what they call the low-voltage circuit.
Yeah.
And basically what that does is it just keeps the basically makes your functions available, like unlocking the doors, popping the front
sound system.
Yeah. So what it does is it basically wakes up the main battery, the main high voltage battery. And look, they do have a service life. Usually it'll come up on the dash and say that it'll need to be replaced soon, or book it in for replacement. Usually between 5 years or so, just depending on how the car's driven.
So 5 years.
5 to 6 years, roughly.
Maybe a bit longer than a regular car battery at three or four-ish, they quote normally. So, but you won't. The car, in theory, won't just suddenly pull over the side of the road and go blank, right?
No.
There's been a couple of stories online. There was one online recently in China. The car just went blank, I think, at 70 k's range. It just went stopped. So clearly there's something bigger at fault there. But normally day-to-day, if you're not going to be concerned about the 12-volt battery until the car gives you a warning that it's low on rechargeability. And that's coming from recharge from the general charging system. So it's recharging off the main battery.
Yep, it charges off the main battery as well. Yep.
I know. I have to remind myself sometimes that every petrol car has been started by an electric motor with a 12-volt battery for the last 100 years. So you've petrol drivers, you've had a little electric motor, and they're doing some hard work just to get the thing going to start with for 100 years. So we're jumping straight ahead here. So battery-wise, recommend a battery health check via someone like an Evolute testev.co is the guys we work with. We're going to have a kit here. If you want to drive in, you can get one done on the spot. Again, peace of mind if you're selling or buying, worth checking along with the mechanical inspection that we're running through just at the moment. We're also looking at the tyres, and a lot of speculation about tyres and exactly how long they last, right? Everyone said EVs are heavier, EV tyres aren't lasting as long. What do you recommend with tyres? Just because there's different experiences and different things happening, including me on this car. So
correct. Yeah, look, I personally think that going for a Tesla option tyre is the way to go. I wouldn't step away and go into the cheaper aftermarket tyres for EVs, quotation mark. I would always stick to a Tesla approved tyre. One, they're load rated and speed rated for the weight of this car, and obviously the speed rating, but they also have the silent foam in the inside. So a lot of other tyres...
Yeah, I saw that,
Yeah, so a lot of other tyres offer they're an EV tyre because they've got the speed and load rating of a heavier car, but they don't have that foam sound ending inside the tyre, which makes a massive difference on the road, especially at around that 80 to 100. You really start to hear a lot more tyre roar and noise with tyres that don't have foam in the inside.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? I guess you hear more road noise now because there's less car noise.
Correct.
Normally you're hearing car noise, engine noise, right? No matter how efficient, how nice the car is. So they've gone out of their way to make sure that the road noise is eliminated or reduced as much as possible as well.
Correct, yeah.
And then what are we seeing on the front? What sort of tyre wear? What's that caused by on the front tyres?
So like tyre wear on Teslas, usually we see the outer shoulders or the outer sections of the tyre wearing before anything else, and that's just due to the natural camber wear of the of the car, and it's a pretty common thing to see happening. Unfortunately, there is no adjustment for what they call the camber on these cars.
So that's the tyre, that's the tilt of the tyres in and out like that.
Yeah, exactly. So you've got positive camber, which is the tyres tilting out, and then you've got negative camber, which is the tyres actually tilting in.
Like a Formula One, yeah.
Correct.
Like a Formula One car.
Exactly, like a Formula One car, So you do see, especially front tyres wearing out on the outer shoulders on Model Ys.
Yeah.
On Model 3s, it's the opposite.
Okay.
It's actually the inner shoulders that will wear out slightly quicker.
On the front?
On the front, yeah.
And there's also something called toe in as well, which is the whether they're aligned properly. And we've just got an alignment machine here as well, which is, because some of them, even out of the factory, the alignment isn't what it should be, right?
Correct, yeah. Look, we've put brand new Model Ys, including my personal car, on the alignment machine with 50 kilometres on it, and the toe, according to our machine, was actually out in the front. So we made a slight adjustment. And could you feel anything on the road?
Yeah, but
possibly not.
Yeah.
Like, as in terms of specs, it was slightly out. So it's always worth checking. But having too much toe can also cause premature wear of the tyres.
So toe ends the angles like that, like your toe ends, and camber's the vertical.
The vertical,
Toe ends the horizontal.
Correct.
And they're not always perfect out of the factory. And that's what a wheel alignment will do. We'll adjust that toe, and obviously the straighter the wheel is going, the more likely that the tyre wear is going to be more even. So less tyre wear. And then on the back, we've seen on mine what sort of wear on the back tyres. So we're not going to show up because
on the back tyres, we're seeing a lot of wear on the inner shoulders.
Yeah.
And that's just due
the part
to
you can't see.
The part you can't see. So everyone looks at the tyre from the outside and goes, no, there's plenty of tread there. It's until you get your hand in the back of the tyre or get underneath it, and you actually see that the tyre is quite worn out on the inner shoulders.
Get underneath it with a torch and have a look, because suddenly it's fine, and the next minute you can see the beading on the inside of the. And that's due to, what's the problem with the back ones, or the structural?
Look, I wouldn't say there's a structural,
the design.
A structural design. It's just naturally the weight of the car, and just.
So there's more camber.
As
some weight goes on, it's pushing it, and the camber increases as the suspension comes down.
Correct. So the more weight's in the car, the more the car will naturally camber in. You can buy aftermarket kits for camber adjustment. Is it necessary? Not always.
Yeah.
You can correct it a lot with a simple wheel alignment.
So wheel alignment's fine, front and back. You've got adjustment for wheel alignment.
For toe, yeah.
But
no
front
camber
and back,
adjustment.
but nothing on camber.
Correct. Yeah, from factory.
On some cars there is,
but
not Tesla Model 3, not otherwise. So you're stuck with the camber. You just got to work to rotating. I have heard you can rotate tyres inside out as well, turn them around, right?
Some tyres,
if they're not directional.
Some tyres you can. Most tyres nowadays are inside-outside tyres.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful of that. The best thing you can do if you're going to buy a Tesla or you're looking in the market is, and you own one, is just rotate the tyres if you can.
Front to back. So back to where we started. And I've got friends and colleagues every 10,000 Ks.
Yep.
Just rotating front to back all the time, so that you're not allowing one set to really cop one effect from the rear, which is completely different from another effect on the front.
Yeah, so, exactly.
What about if you're a bit more heavy-footed?
Like myself. You can expect, you will expect the tyres to wear out significantly quicker.
So if you're asking yourself on Facebook what the problem is with your tyres wearing out at 15, 20,000 Ks, perhaps you just got to have a look in the mirror and see what's going on, because that's the reason. The rest of us are getting 30, 40,000 Ks, similar to what everyone else is getting. So I'll leave that thought with you. We'll move on quick, smart. So again, we touched briefly on the motor. Is there nothing to do on these cars for the motor, like in terms of maintenance?
Look, there is oil and a filter as part of the rear drive assembly, the rear motor. There's no set schedule for the rear motor service via Tesla.
Yeah.
If you were to pop into a service centre and ask them to change the oil in the rear motor, it's definitely doable.
Yeah.
There's moving parts, in my philosophy is, and this is coming from petrol and diesel cars. If there's moving parts and there's a filter and there's a drain and a fill plug, you'd want to be changing the oil at some point. probably looking to change it around about the 100, 150,000 Ks.
Yeah.
Like I said, it just comes to how the car is driven.
Yeah.
If still a good idea to get it looked at and addressed. Is it a necessity? Possibly not, but if there's moving parts, you might as well get it done.
Yeah. So there's a small gearbox in there.
Correct.
It's got oil.
Yep.
Like every gearbox, it's going to be wear and tear.
Exactly.
But you haven't seen one yet.
No, honestly, we haven't seen. I've seen a couple of Model Ys, 250,000 Ks, getting up there, Model S's, up there 300,000 Ks, and there's been no real wear and tear or noises made from the motor at all. So which is a really good thing. You know? Like it just proves the drive line in these cars is up to par.
Yeah, and considering the Model 3 came out of nowhere after, I mean, the Model S is going really, really well. Model X they've all got issues. Don't correct. We appreciate that. We're not saying no problems. We're just maybe pointing some people in the right direction. I'm at that stage at 100,000 Ks where I feel like I've done nothing, and it's about time to ask some harder questions, and see what maybe I might need to do.
Sure.
Same situation if you're buying, same situation if you're selling. Certainly, there's been some problems out there and some issues, and some well-known and documented ones you can check and Google yourself. But if you want to be a bit more preemptive and have a look, because it seems like nothing's going on, is there anything else that maybe you can think of that people might be interested in?
Look, I think we've covered pretty much everything mechanically wise. Obviously, touch on this very, very briefly. There is wear and tear in cabins and inside of things. But, I guess that's a talk for another complete time.
Yeah.
We're focusing more on mechanical stuff today.
Sensor issues.
Sensor issues, not really.
This one's still got the sensor.
Yeah, so it's still got the forward facing, the forward sensors.
On a 20, this is a 22 model, so it's still got the sensors.
Yeah, so the newer cars just solely rely on the cameras.
Yeah.
Like my car just solely relies on the cameras. And Tesla's vision for reversing, it does an awesome job.
Yeah.
Honestly, can't complain. Can't complain. It's up to par. Honestly, it's I'm not just a
We're
Tesla
not Tesla
lover.
salesmen.
No.
Tesla's around the corner, not far from us in Mascot. Yeah.
This is just our experience, with these cars.
We're going to get organised. We're going to come back and do a deeper dive into some particular aspects that we've covered today. We wanted to give a general overview, and I want to thank Ed for making his time available, because he's working with these every day. I've just come in, we put this together, and we thought, let's just cover some of the basics and important things, because I've discovered a couple of things about this car that probably need some attention as well, particularly if I was selling it, or particularly if I was looking to buy one. Now I'd know what to look for. We might branch out into some other models at the moment, but Ed's experience in this shop has been Tesla so far. Hopefully, as some of these cars come onto the market, we're certainly going to see a whole lot more cars, and there'll be some other interesting. We also recognise, appreciate that other car manufacturers have got more comprehensive service schedules, right? They've got probably more service schedules that are more akin to a petrol car. Perhaps that's because of the nature of their service model or their brand. Tesla seem to be the other extreme. They certainly have gone the other direction. They've prescribed almost nothing, and that's two big ends of the spectrums. I've seen some pretty comprehensive and expensive service schedules on some other EVs, which are part of some pretty well-established brands. Somewhere, hopefully, the balance will fall in between, and that there'll be something a little bit more regular with Tesla and something less onerous with some of those cars as well. But we'll have a more chance to have a look at those. At the moment, this shop is a Tesla specialist. If you want smash repair, unfortunately, if you've got an insurance work, if you need rental car replacement, they're happy to do it. But you saw up front, they've got a workshop in terms for smash repair, paint, rental cars. Now here, the mechanical side of things, everything covered to get your car back on the road again as quickly as possible. So I'm Rosco, this is Ed, and thought I'd just have a look at some of the newer listings we've got at AmazingEV. 2 or 3 Teslas have just come up recently around that late 60s, 70s, 80s, 100K mark. And these are the sort of prime candidates for what we're hoping, or what we think are going to be the cars that are going to be, well, probably prime candidates for some of the checks that we're going to do now. So I'll see you a bit later on, Ed. Let me jump on the AmazingEV marketplace. Again, just to confirm, we don't have any financial arrangement with City Prestige. They're there's something that I worked with, and probably 2 years ago, I might have backed into a bollard and I might have had to have a smash repair done. And, well, anyway, Darren, the boss of the whole company, they do smash repairs, they do towing, they do rental cars. Now they've got the new mechanical workshop right behind us here. So, look, it was a joy to have him work with him. And now, as time's gone by, I've done lots of other bits and pieces of maintenance with Ed. Great experience and really enjoying this. So we thought we'd just take a look closely, probably at some of these cars. And this one jumped out in particular. And I can't believe that, I couldn't believe that perhaps this might be the highest model, or kilometre Model Y in Australia. This has done 335,000 Ks. We haven't got a maintenance report or a maintenance inspection. The owner has politely invited them on. Happy for your mechanic to have a look over it. No doubt I'd be happy to having my mechanic have a look over it. It looks pristine. It looks like it's in great condition. Absolutely wonderful from these photos. And it looks brilliant. Looks nothing, well, the body looks fantastic. Looks exactly like mine. It's the same age as mine, 3 years, but he's done 3 times more. So I'd love to have a closer look at this one. We haven't spoken to the owner on this, but he's up in Brisbane, and this would be a prime candidate to get your mechanical inspection done. There's a few things we'll see a bit later on, but otherwise this looks exactly like mine in every way. But except for this incredible 335,000 Ks. So can't wait to bring you more on that one, because that absolutely blew my mind. That really surprised me. Then the Model 3s, and again, this one here, this really excited me, this one. And this goes to show this, I think, just the importance of getting great photos. This guy, turns out he's a wedding photographer. And look, these photos are just fantastic. Here's a Model 3 Performance, one of the earlier ones, so 2020, the all-wheel drive that's done 138,000 Ks. So again, absolutely pristine condition. These first owners have really looked after these cars. Absolutely magnificent. This looks brand new, and can't help but stress how important it is to get these photos done. Oh, look, here's a professional who's got these ones, but getting good quality photos, making sure that you really present the car in the best possible light, I think really helps with a sale. And he's taken a ton of magnificent photos, obviously professional level, but really the better the photos you can get, whether it's your iPhone or your own camera, we think like a high-end real estate listing, the better chance you've got of selling. Because this one's a magnificent example. Again, it's loaded up with everything, 19-inch alloys. It's got the electric front lifters. It's got home garage door link, ceramic tinting. It's got all the mats, badges, black, roof shade, everything. He's thrown everything at this car. So brilliant opportunity at 40,000. Performance galore, and of course worthy of a battery test as well. And we'll have a closer chat about that a bit later on. This one really caught my attention, and again, worthy of a mechanical inspection as well. But it might have been driven like most performance cars, but maybe a little bit harder than others. So perhaps that's something to look out for when you're getting a mechanical inspection done. It's fully loaded with all the gear, but perhaps it might be something that might be worth checking as well. And then this really, really budget Model 3. Again, for me, a great second car, 28888, based, again, in Melbourne, 132,000 for a Model 3. Again, what year is it? 2022. It's only maybe it was Uber driven. I don't know. We haven't seen the details. They haven't declared. Nice standard Model 3, second car for sure. Still plenty of life left in this one. Again, same sorts of things I'd be looking at. Mechanical inspection just to see what is going on with some of the suspension. There's a few factors that we will have a look at later on that starting to get reasonably well known amongst Model 3s, things to look out for, and if they haven't been looked after, they might need attention. But again, good price, outstanding example. So really love this sort of car, and very happy to see this for sale. Again, coming down to the real budget, still a lot of money, don't get me wrong, but still a level where it's starting to get into the second-hand car territory. So really happy with that. So We'll jump to a sales update report. We're going to go back to Rosco in the studio now and leave that to him. We've got a sales update,
How are you?
some breaking news, and an inbox report. So I'll throw to Rosco in the studio for now. Hey, thanks, Rosco. And straight to some breaking news. Some great articles out of the US and the UK on the used EV markets over there. Gives us some great perspectives. So that must mean it's time for breaking EV news, and this incredible article from the UK, from Which EV, which reports on the Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders, the SMMT data about the used EV market over there. And the used EV market in 2025 was up 45.7% already in the UK. Year over year, the used EV market was up 45.7% from 2.5 to 3.5% of the overall used EV of the overall used car market in the UK. Bearing in mind the used car market in the UK is it's over 7 million cars. Remember, the used EV market in Australia, the used car market in Australia is only 2.1 million cars here. So got almost 4.5 times bigger, almost 3.5 times bigger. But they've had some massive improvements. And I watch a guy called Richard Simmons. If you want something to do after tonight before Ludicrous Feed later on, check out Richard Simmons. He's got some great videos about used EVs, what to look out for. He's got a used EV dealership in the UK down south. He's been specialising in selling used EVs out of his used EV dealership for the last 2 or 3 years now and doing really well. Ups and downs, of course, a lot of political ramifications, considerations, pricing, new models, discounts, all the usual stuff. But check out Richard because it really gives a great insight into this market over there. Another really interesting article from the US this time from Cox Automotive, where they've reported that there's been a bit of a boost in the under $25,000 EV area in the US. You might remember that they used to have a $4,000 credit or bonus for you buying a used EV as well, which just disappeared in September last year. So, the new EV market dropped as a result of that and fell 36% in the last quarter. The used EV market is actually up 13%. 89,000 EVs changed hands. And they like things like Ford Mustangs over there and Chevy Bolts. Those are the sort of cars that they like over there. Ioniq 5s are really popular. It's surprising, but again, as soon as the price gets down to sort of that under $25,000 mark, that's when things start to get really attractive because the used car starts to make real sense. And cars, like everything, are bought based on price. If you buy what you can afford, whether it's new or used, and if it's financed, maybe that payment every month is really one of the major factors. But here, the US has taken a bit of a turn because not only is the used EV market up, according to Cox Automotive, it is also the day's sale is at 50 days is slightly faster than the used EV than the used car market overall. So that's the day's sale, as we've seen before, is the number of days on average it takes to sell a car. 50 days, a month and a half, 6 weeks is pretty good. Dealers would hope it would be less than 60, but often get stuck with cars at 70 or 80. As we're about to see, the day's sale in Australia has been creeping up on EVs. Again, not sure why at this stage. We can see the numbers, but we don't know. We'll have a look at those shortly. But the US, on average, the last quarter of last year leading into winter, and again, traditionally a bit of a slower time for them. Well, and particularly after the rebates disappeared, used EV days were less than petrol-powered cars. So, hey, go figure. Some positive news out of both the UK, where used EV sales are up 47% to 3.5% of the overall market, and some great numbers, positive numbers after the rebates being completely taken away from both the new and the used markets in the US. So we're really encouraged by those as trends for the used market here in Australia. And we'll keep looking out for things like that because if we get an idea of what's going on overseas, I think we can get a better idea of what's going on here. Now let's jump into an update for the used EV sales data for January 2026, which was just released. And you might recall that we did an update of the whole year of 2025 on a separate video, and there's a link to that. There's a link to that down below. We'll jump back into this report because now we've got for January used EV sales update. The overall headline numbers: 291,666 cars were listed for sale. Again, this number's coming from AutoGrab, who skim all the markets, car sales, Facebook, everything, Auto Trader, all the markets to see how many cars are actually listed for sale. That breakdown is, again, slightly higher for the dealers now, 58. It's creeping up. It's normally about 50%. You can see there the difference between private sellers and dealers. Dealers are creeping up as private sellers have withdrawn from the market a bit. Looks like most of the major states were down in terms of listings. This is the broader whole market, the whole used car market. And sales, again, ironically, while listings were down, sales were actually up. So some of these numbers, some strange nuances happening in a January Christmas period, holidays. We're not looking for any big trends here, but some interesting numbers as sales, again, high on the dealer side, lower on the private side, but broadly up in every state, in some states significantly, and up overall 9.7% over the previous month. So good month overall for used car sales. If we dig a bit deeper, we start to see some of the trends, particularly of the whole market. And here we pull out the EV sales, again, up 20% for the month, from 2,405 to 2,889. Again, not a huge number compared to the overall market. Petrol still miles and miles ahead, like 112,000. We're just a rounding error. And again, petrol sales were up. Plug-in hybrids were down. LPG was down. So, but again, nice to see EVs trending up, and that's the main thing I'm looking for this year. Just a nice trend up. Sales are good. One thing, again, listings jumped 30% from 5,263. So a bit of a disconnect there. Listings were up, but sales were up as well. Strangely enough, again, looking at the overall market, day sale has started to increase just gradually. And again, that doesn't quite correlate with what we might expect. Day sale would, if sales were up, normally we might expect day sale to be down. Normally, if the market's slowing, it normally takes longer to sell. So it doesn't quite correlate that day sale. And again, this is for the whole used EV. This is for the whole used car market. Doesn't quite correlate that sales were up overall and days sale were up as well. But let's just dive straight into the used car market, because again, used EVs specifically, again, and here this discrepancy between the seller types for sales is extraordinary. This is normally about 50-50. So again, whether there's a few more demos coming to market, I don't know this is a curious one for me. I'm going to have to do some more research because I haven't got an explanation for you for this one. If anyone knows what's going on here, comment and let me know, because I'm going to follow this up. But having a look at what's sold, Tesla Model 3s and Ys normally represent the backbone of the private market, and they were well down. So Polestars were up, MG4s were up, MGZS, iX1s at 03, that EQA up, iX2s up. So some big jumps there in a couple of BMW models and the Mercedes-Benz EXA. So again, I suspect that some of the dealers are clearing demos here, and those numbers aren't representative of real. Again, we try to bring you consistent and reliable results, but sometimes I want to look closer and dig deeper. And this time, it's one of those occasions I'm going to do that. I'm going to go and double check these just to see exactly what's going on, because normally that private dealer number should be about 50-50. But I think we're seeing a few demos cleared out here, some of these models that they're trying to get rid of. That would explain that. Jumping into the residual values and the days to sell. So again, the important numbers,
Have a look at that on the right-hand side, the used EV market. I've compared that with the whole car market down below that chart that we saw before, where for August, September, October, November, December, and January, we've got comparative numbers. And the used EV market was tracking almost exactly the same as the broader market for that August, September. October, there started to become a bit of a discrepancy. November, there was a bit of a jump, even bigger jump. And then what we saw was quite extraordinary because the day sale has increased dramatically, up 20 days. Again, it doesn't quite correlate with the sales figures that were up overall. Normally, if the day's sale has increased and is increasing, so I don't have the breakdown here between the private and the dealer market, but I suspect that that's more representative of the private sellers, those Teslas, where we saw the slowdown. If you recall, we saw that slowdown in Teslas and I think that's representative of the private market. Why we saw a slowdown in Teslas? We've seen a slowdown in Teslas on the new market, and now we're seeing a little bit of a slowdown with Teslas. What do we read from that? Well, I don't know with Tesla. You never know. you never know with Tesla. But yeah, it's certainly interesting that we're seeing such an increase in the day's sale. On the all-important residual values on the 2025 models, those numbers are actually they're fairly stable. On the 2023, 22 models, the 21s, they're actually only dropping fractionally, and on the 2020 models, they've actually improved 1.8%. So people are actually getting a better price than they were previously. So not too bad compared to the broader market again on the residual values. No massive changes. Those 1 year models down 16% is the biggest drop. Again, I think with the enormous number of new models we're starting to see coming out at much more attractive pricing, it's really affecting some of those cars that were around the $60,000 to $70,000 mark because there's some really attractive models in the 50, 45, 55 band now. And so that might have affected. But as for the older models, the 22s, the 21s, 20s, a little bit of a drop, but in the case of 2020, 1.8 increase, really encouraged by that. So look, that's our sales update for January 2026. Some interesting numbers coming out there. I want to see that day's sale drop down again. That means that on average at the moment, people are waiting 61 days. It's almost 2 months to sell their EV. That should drop down, hopefully get back to that level of about 46 weeks. Having said that, we've had some great results in the last couple of weeks as well for some of the cars on AmazingEV. So that wraps up our EV sales update for January. Can't wait to see February now, see how the year unfolds. Traditionally, February, March, and April are great months to sell a used EV. And so we're looking forward to a really strong period for February, March, and April. So now, jumping into my favorite part, of course, before we get back to the workshop, the inbox, my favorite part of the show. One note this week, which I picked up from Facebook. You remember Stan from 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had him on the show. He just managed to sell his Polestar 2 to his ex-wife Poppy, and keeping it in the family was the best result as far as he was concerned. He was taking delivery of a Zeekr X, but as the process unfolded, he had to deliver the car to Poppy, and she came down to where Stan was in South Australia. They drove back to New South Wales together. She drove, and he showed her the ropes, the nuances of the Polestar, and it was a sad moment there, as you can see in that photo. Stan saying goodbye to the Polestar 2. It's going to be a tough one. It stays in the family-ish, not too far away. He knows where it is. I think it was an emotional day. He had a really strong bond to this car, and if you find that hard to believe, you follow Stan at Kangaroo on TV, because you'll realise what that car meant to him and the trips and travels that he's done, and how hard it was to say goodbye. But onwards and upwards with the Zeekr X, and look forward to some more adventures, Stan. So thanks very much for that. And look, it was great to be part of that as well. So let's jump to the break now and have a cruise around AmazingEV.